So, folks, a music video featuring a 15-year-old schoolboy and depicting sexual and criminal activity between minors, I'm told, has gone viral. The children's advocacy group, Hear the Children Cry, has called for its removal from YouTube. Director of the organization, Nigel Cooper, joins us to explain their concern. Good morning, Sir Nigel. Welcome to Smile. How are you?
Hi, good morning, Neville. Good morning, guys.
Morning, Nigel.
Let me play devil's advocate right up front, because even though they're they have feelings like you, some people do. Others say the little youth is a talented youth and him not doing anything that them never see the big artists them do and stuff. So what is the problem? Let me start there. What is the problem?
Okay. Well, there are two issues. There is the moral issue, and you're right, Neville. Some people are going to say, boy, I left the youth, I'm going to eat a food, I'm going to help him family. But then there's a legal issue, which is another issue. So we believe at Hear Children's Cry that morally it is not, the moral compass, it doesn't do well for Jamaica's moral compass and encouraging youth to, in the society to do what we believe most Jamaicans would think is appropriate. So, but then everybody will have different views morally. But legally, this youngster now could be possibly exposed to certain laws in terms of, the Child and Prevention Act, the Sexual Offences Act. So that is two concerns that we have, that we think that this is morally inappropriate for a young man dressed up in uniform at a high school portraying these sexual, images with an adult and himself on a high school compound. It just sends the wrong message to our youth, our children. And so that is it. And then also, I said, legally, we believe that it can also be a legal issue. So it is not something that we want to, I don't think, is promoting healthy society in Jamaica. I think we have enough negatives in Jamaica already, and even within the schools, even by themselves. So it's not something that we should support.
Two devil's advocates on this discussion with you this morning, Nigel, because the other side of it is, isn't it just art? Where's the line drawn? This is artistic expression, and parents should be the ones to guide their children properly, having seen this video or knowing that their children have been exposed to this video.
I hear you, God, but then look at it. This video seemed to have been somewhat professionally produced. It wasn't some high school guys just get together and do a video. It means that adults were involved in this video. And it means, therefore, that did the parents, for example, give consent for their son to be involved, or their children who works on that video to be a part of the video? Did the adult? So we have a concern that the adult now may have, hopefully unintentionally, exposed this young talent to possibly legal consequences. So things must be done within the law. Yes, you have talent, and Neville and God, when I interact with a lot of youths in certain communities, 7 out of 10 want the music, and there's nothing wrong with that. They see it as they emulate a lot of the artists, so a lot of them are into music. But then we must have, that's why we have laws and processes. And we have examples of child stars in Jamaica, Junior Tucker and Nadine Sutherland. So it is possible for you at a young age to use your talent, but again, it has to be done within the context of the law.
You did make mention in your opening response to Neville's question that there's a legal side to it. What exactly from the video is the legal exposure of that child? What's taking place there that the police or Sissoko, for example, could follow up on, given that it is a music video and there is no evidence of an act taking place, save and except for what is very strongly implied through the images on screen and through the lyrics?
Well, not a lawyer. We have other lawyers a part of our Hear Children's Cry team. But when you actually see an adult grooming a youngster, that is against the law. To touching the youngster inappropriately and moving around, that is against the law. And there are acts now: the Sexual Offences Act, the Child Care and Prevention Act, the Child Pornographic Prevention Act, even the Data Protection Act. As I said, did these children get permission to have those their images broadcast outside? So there's a lot of negatives, and it's for the police to do their job. I'm not telling them what to do, whether they have our case or not, but we're definitely saying that it should be investigated, and we believe it should be removed. But
Yeah.
that is for the police and the authorities to deal with.
Yeah, you said legal, as Garth said many times since we started this conversation. And in the opening, I said criminal activity. Is it the same thing we're talking about here?
Yes, I think it's the same thing in terms of legal. As you know, then you can go civil or criminal. So it is legal that we believe that it could be a case to be investigated, and for the adults, in particular, the adults who, because these are not just guided by, as I say, it's not a group of youngsters who just did a video. They seem to have been a well produced, in terms of quote unquote well produced production. And so you have the adults who must take responsibility, because under the Child and Prevention Act, that we as adults, we have a standard. It's like you're not going to tell a footballer, a youth, to go damage somebody intentionally as a coach. So they're looking for you for guidance.
Yeah.
So we're disappointed that there was the more guidance and thought about the possible implications for the youngster individual himself.
And as you go there, obviously, the father never had an issue with it. So take me back to this legal implication, ramification. So what happens if you come now and I say, well, I gave my son permission to do that?
Yeah.
Is there
But
still...
you can't, okay, never, you can't agree to something that's illegal, right? Basic
Okay.
contract law. So the father can't agree to let his son do things that are against the law.
All right, tell me again. You have already said it, but tell me again what you saw in the video that is criminal activity.
What was disturbing was the female adult, supposedly maybe a teacher or somebody official at the school, grooming, what we call grooming this young man, a student in uniform.
What does grooming, in this case, what does grooming mean in this case?
In this case means that she was inappropriately touching him. Why would a teacher, for example, in the context, would it be appropriate for a teacher to be touching a 15-year-old male student in that way, a suggestive way? It's not appropriate, and that could be, again, that's for the police and to look at it to see if it meets that threshold. We believe it does, but we're not the police.
Yep.
Now, we're focusing on the problem here.
Right.
So let's talk solutions, because on the one hand, do you believe, for example, that what we're seeing in this particular video, and we've seen a number of others as well, with a similar kind of direction, not the exact thing, but a similar kind of direction, is it a sign that, broadly speaking, societal values are being eroded? And what do we do about that?
I believe it is. Years ago, when then Prime Minister Patson called for values and attitudes, people laughed. But I think we're seeing now in Jamaica that we have our values and attitudes are under attack. And some people might say, well, over time, culturally, we change. But there are some values and attitudes that are not positive in terms of family. And we see, again, the ramifications of these types of behaviors in schools, in society. And so this is why we're saying that in terms of solutions, we need to continually repeat positive parenting messages. We need to give even our adults guidance to know what is allowable under the law, what type of behavior. So at a school, why would you want to promote that image that it is okay at a school for certain types of activities to happen, to promote it? At a school, we're supposed to be focusing on learning and educating in terms of, but not to be promoting negative social behavior. We have enough of that outside of schools already. And we know sex sells, right? We know sensationalism sells, that people, but there is a place and time under the law for such activities.
Wow. And the fact that kids see what they learn is not a good thing in this case, is it?
That's right, Neville. That's right. It has to be, that's right. And so we as adults share part of the blame. And as I said, this video seemed to have been professionally produced. So the producers should have, I would have thought that they would have understood the possible implications, not just the hype and to make it, people want to look at it and all that. Yeah, that's the business part, but there's also part of the business part is knowing what is doable under the law. And, so those are some of the issues we have. The moral issues, which again, different people have different morals. Some people say, boy, nothing wrong with that. we don't believe that. We think it's not a right signal to send for our youths.
For parents who need support and guidance and help, certainly in having certain types of conversations, how do they get in touch with Hear the Children Cry?
Sure. 876-929-0431. So that's 876-929-0431. We have our counselors who are in office daily. And there are other organizations, the CPFSA, there are different organizations, but we are here to help as a long-time NGO.
Right. And you're on Instagram as well at Hear the Children Cry.
Right.
Thanks, Mr. Cooper. Happy Ash Wednesday.
You too. Thank you, guys. Thanks for inviting us.
All right, blessings.
Take care.
Nigel Cooper, Director of Hear the Children Cry.
Coming up, Fabian Thomas shares his book of poetry and spoken word.